January 2nd, 1967, 3 p.m. local time. Sky over North Vietnam, 25 miles northwest of Hanoi. Colonel Robin Olds sits in the cockpit of an F-4C Phantom at 15,000 feet. Airspeed 480 knots. Outside temperature minus 18 degrees Celsius. His radar intercept officer, Lieutenant Charles Clifton, scans the scope behind him. The Phantom carries 4 AIM-7 Sparrow radar-guided missiles and 4 AIM-9 Sidewinder heat seekers. Fuel state, 7,200 pounds remaining. Olds keys the radio. "Lincoln, this is Olds 1. We have multiple bandits. Repeat, multiple MiG-21s inbound from the northwest. The MiGs think they're intercepting F-105 Thunderchief bombers. Standard procedure. Easy targets, but the aircraft in the clouds are not F-105s. They are F-4C Phantoms, masquerading as bomb-laden strike packages. The North Vietnamese Air Force is flying directly into a meticulously planned ambush. Distance to nearest MiG, 12 miles and closing at combined speed of 1,200 knots. Olds arms his missiles. His heart rate stays at 72 beats per minute. 17 years of tactical flying have trained his body not to spike adrenaline prematurely. The question isn't whether the trap will work. The question is whether the most elusive fighter force in Southeast Asia will realize they've been deceived before it's too late. Robin Olds was born July 14, 1922, in Honolulu, Hawaii. His father, Robert Olds, was a U.S. Army Air Corps officer and a pioneer in strategic bombing doctrine. Growing up on military airfields gave Robin direct access to aircraft and pilots, but it didn't guarantee his path into aviation. He earned it through performance. United States Military Academy at West Point, Class of 1943, Wartime Acceleration Program, compressed 4 years into 3. Olds graduated June 1, 1943, received his commission, and entered flight training immediately. Primary flight training at Phoenix, Arizona, basic and advanced at Stewart Field, New York. Total flight hours upon receiving wings, 217 hours. Average for the program, nothing exceptional yet. Assigned to the 479th Fighter Group, 8th Air Force, stationed at Wattisham, England. Aircraft, P-38 Lightning. Olds flew his first combat mission August 14, 1944. By the end of World War II, he had accumulated 13 confirmed aerial victories, 12 in the air, 1 on the ground. He transitioned to P-51 Mustangs in 1945, adding to his total. Post-war assignments included test pilot duties and various tactical fighter squadrons flying F-80 Shooting Stars, F-86 Sabres, and F-101 Voodoos. By 1966, Olds had logged over 3,000 flight hours in jet aircraft. He was 44 years old when he assumed command of the 8th Tactical Fighter Wing at Ubon Royal Thai Air Force Base, Thailand, in September 1966. His tactical philosophy was straightforward. Lead from the front, fly the most dangerous missions yourself, and study the enemy with the same rigor you study your own equipment. One habit set Olds apart. Before every mission, he rehearsed the flight profile on paper, noting fuel consumption at each phase, weapons employment parameters, and escape routes. He required his pilots to do the same. No improvisation without preparation. This discipline would prove essential in planning Operation Bolo. The McDonnell Douglas F-4C Phantom II entered service with the U.S. Air Force in 1963. Two-seat, twin-engine, all-weather interceptor and fighter bomber. Crew, pilot in front, radar intercept officer in rear. Power plant, 2 General Electric J79-GE15 turbojet engines, each producing 10,900 pounds of thrust, dry, 17,000 pounds with afterburner. Maximum speed, Mach 2.23 at 40,000 feet. Combat radius, approximately 400 nautical miles with external fuel tanks. Service ceiling, 60,000 feet. Rate of climb, 41,300 feet per minute. Empty weight, 28,000 pounds. Maximum takeoff weight, 58,000 pounds. Armament for Operation Bolo, 4 AIM-7E2 Sparrow radar-guided missiles. Semi-active radar homing, range 28 miles,
warhead 66 pounds. 4 AIM-9B Sidewinder heat-seeking missiles, infrared homing, range 2.5 miles, warhead 25 pounds. No internal gun. The F-4C was designed in an era when the Air Force believed missiles had made guns obsolete. This would prove to be a critical oversight in Vietnam. The primary adversary, Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-21 F-13 Fishbed, single-seat, single-engine delta-wing interceptor. Power plant, Tumansky R-11 F-300, turbojet, 12,675 pounds of thrust with afterburner. Maximum speed, Mach 2.05 at altitude. Service ceiling, 59,000 feet. Rate of climb, 35,400 feet per minute. Empty weight, 29,200 pounds. Maximum takeoff weight, 18,740 pounds. Armament for Operation Bolo, 2 K-13 Atoll infrared-guided missiles, Soviet copy of the AIM-7 Sidewinder captured from Taiwan. 1 NR-30 30mm cannon with 60 rounds, mounted in the belly. Rate of fire, 850 rounds per minute. Comparison. Primary advantage, F-4C Phantom, is superior radar and missile range. 2 crew members for workload distribution, greater payload and endurance, better high-altitude performance. Disadvantages, MiG-21, lower weight, superior maneuverability at medium altitudes, smaller radar cross-section, harder to detect, built-in gun for close combat, operates from home bases, shorter response time. F-4C vulnerabilities, poor visibility from the cockpit, especially to the rear, heavy and less maneuverable in turning fights below 20,000 feet. AIM-7 Sparrow unreliable, frequent failures. No internal gun for close-range dogfighting. MiG-21 vulnerabilities, limited fuel, approximately 7 minutes of combat time with afterburner. Poor radar, limited all-weather capability, only 2 missiles, pilots generally less experienced than American counterparts. The F-4C was chosen for Operation Bolo because it could carry enough fuel and missiles to loiter in enemy airspace while maintaining the electronic signature and flight profile of the F-105 Thunderchief bomber. The MiG-21 was designed as a short-range interceptor, meant to dash up, shoot down bombers, and return to base quickly. This limitation would be exploited.
By late 1966, the air war over North Vietnam had reached a tactical impasse. Operation Rolling Thunder, the sustained bombing campaign against North Vietnamese infrastructure, had been underway since March 1965. American strike packages routinely penetrated North Vietnamese airspace, but losses were mounting. The North Vietnamese People's Air Force, or VPAF, operated under strict ground control. MiG-21s and older MiG-17s flew limited intercept missions, vectored by ground radar to attack American strike formations at the most vulnerable moment, usually during egress when F-105 Thunderchiefs were low on fuel and carrying empty bomb racks. The MiGs would make a single high-speed pass, fire missiles, and disengage before American escort fighters could react. This hit-and-run tactic was highly effective. Between April and December 1966, the VPAF claimed 47 American aircraft destroyed. Actual confirmed losses were lower, but the psychological impact was significant. American rules of engagement compounded the problem. Pilots were prohibited from attacking MiGs on the ground or within 30 nautical miles of Hanoi unless the MiGs demonstrated hostile intent. Ground radar sites were off-limits unless they were actively guiding missiles. These restrictions gave North Vietnamese pilots sanctuary and predictable operating patterns. By December 1966, MiG-21s had become so elusive that some U.S. pilots referred to them as phantom MiGs, more often reported than actually engaged.
The 8th Tactical Fighter Wing at Ubon had flown hundreds of missions without a single confirmed MiG kill. Morale was deteriorating. Pilots resented flying under restrictive rules while the enemy operated freely from protected bases. The political calculation behind the restrictions was straightforward. The Johnson administration feared that aggressive air-to-air tactics might provoke Chinese or Soviet intervention. Shooting down MiGs inside their protected airspace could escalate the conflict beyond Vietnam. But by late 1966, tactical commanders argued that these restrictions had handed air superiority to a smaller, less capable force. Operation Bolo was conceived as a workaround. If American fighters couldn't attack MiGs on the ground, they would lure them into the air under false pretenses. The plan required perfect operational security. If the North Vietnamese suspected deception, they would simply refuse to launch. And if they did launch and realized the trap too late, the resulting air battle would either validate American tactics or expose critical flaws in equipment and training. The operation was kept secret, not only to the North Vietnamese, but also to most American personnel. Only wing commanders and mission planners knew the full scope. Even the pilots selected for the mission weren't briefed until 24 hours before execution. The reason? Radio intercepts indicated that North Vietnamese intelligence had sources inside U.S. air bases. Loose talk could compromise everything.
Ubon Royal Thai Air Force Base, Thailand. Colonel Robin Olds conducts the final mission brief. 56 F-4C Phantoms will participate. They are divided into 7 flights, each with specific call signs: Olds, Ford, Rambler, Lincoln, Plymouth, Tempest, and Vespa. Each flight consists of 8 aircraft, divided into 2 elements of 4. The plan: all F-4Cs will mimic the radio chatter, flight altitude, speed, and formation of F-105 Thunder Chief bombers on a typical strike mission. F-105s normally fly at 15,000 feet, speed 480 to 500 knots, in tight formations of 4. The F-4Cs will replicate this exactly. Electronic countermeasures pods, normally carried by F-105s, will be mounted on the Phantoms to duplicate the radar signature. Target area: the airspace northwest of Hanoi, specifically over Phu Quien Airfield, the main MiG-21 base. Weather forecast: heavy overcast, cloud deck between 10,000 and 18,000 feet. Perfect. The MiGs will be forced to climb through the clouds blind, emerging directly into the kill zone. Fuel is the limiting factor. F-4Cs will have approximately 20 minutes in the target area before they must turn for the tankers orbiting over Laos. The operation depends on the MiGs scrambling quickly. 2:47 p.m. Olds flight crosses into North Vietnamese airspace. Altitude: 15,000 feet. Airspeed: 480 knots. Formation: 4-ship finger 4, standard for F-105 strike packages. Radio chatter is casual, mimicking bomber crews discussing navigation checkpoints and fuel states. Olds monitors the strike frequency and the MiG warning frequency simultaneously. 2:53 p.m. First MiG warning. Lincoln, be advised, possible bandits scrambling from Phu Quien. The call comes from an EC-121 Warning Star, an early warning radar aircraft orbiting over the Gulf of Tonkin. The EC-121 can track aircraft over North Vietnam and provide vector information to American fighters, but its radar range is limited by distance and terrain. Olds keys his radio. Copy. Maintain formation. His tone is calm, almost bored. Fuel state: 8,100 pounds. 2:56 p.m. Olds, Lincoln, we have multiple bandits airborne. Estimate 6 to 8 contacts heading southwest from Phu Quien toward your position. Altitude unknown, climbing through the weather. Olds arms his missile systems. He does not break formation. The deception must hold for another 2 minutes. 2:58 p.m. Ford flight, flying 3 miles south of Olds flight, reports visual contact. Tally 2. Repeat. Tally 2 MiG-21s breaking through cloud deck, 12 o'clock, 5 miles. Olds scans forward. The clouds are thick gray, layered at multiple altitudes. Then he sees them. 2 silver Delta wings punch through the overcast at his altitude, 1,500 feet above and slightly left. The MiGs are accelerating, noses down, setting up for a classic slashing attack against what they believe are F-105 bombers. Olds pulls the throttles to full military power. No afterburner yet. Olds flight. This is lead. Brake right and gauge. The 4 F-4Cs split. Olds and his wingman, Olds 2, bank hard right to cut off the lead MiG. Olds 3 and 4 continue straight, forcing the second MiG to commit to a target. 3 p.m. Distance to lead MiG, 8,000 feet. Decreasing rapidly. Altitude, 14,800 feet. Airspeed, 520 knots and accelerating. The MiG pilot sees the Phantoms turning toward him. Too late. He tries to brake left, but his energy state is wrong. He entered the clouds at low speed and climbed steeply. Now he's slow, vulnerable. Olds gets a radar lock. Clifton in the rear seat calls it out. Locked. Good tone. 8,000 feet. Olds fires an A.7 Sparrow. The missile drops from the fuselage. Engine ignites. White smoke trail. Time of flight, 4.2 seconds. The Sparrow tracks true. The MiG pilot doesn't see it coming through the clouds. Impact on the left wing root. Explosion. The MiG's wing separates. The aircraft tumbles, inverted, and begins a flat spin downward into the clouds. First kill. Time elapsed from merge to impact, 23 seconds. 3:01 p.m. Olds pulls hard left, 6 Gs, scanning for the second MiG. His vision narrows slightly from the G-load. Blood pressure in the legs drops. He tenses his abdominal muscles to prevent blackout. The second MiG has reversed and is diving toward Olds 3 and 4, who are turning to meet him. Olds 3 fires an A.9 Sidewinder. The heat seeker tracks the MiG's tailpipe, but the MiG pilot brakes hard right and deploys flares. The Sidewinder loses track and detonates harmlessly 200 feet behind the target. The MiG pilot makes a mistake. He continues his right turn instead of disengaging. This bleeds energy. Airspeed drops below 400 knots. Olds 4, Lieutenant Ralph Weatherhan, closes from the left quarter. Distance, 4,000 feet. He fires another Sidewinder. The missile tracks cleanly. Impact at the tailpipe. The MiG's engine explodes. The aircraft noses down, streaming black smoke and fuel. No ejection. Second kill. Total elapsed time, 2 minutes and 11 seconds.
3:03 p.m. Olds reformats his flight. Fuel state, 6,800 pounds. Enough for 14 more minutes in the target area. The radio explodes with calls. Forward flight is engaged with 4 MiG-21s northwest of Olds' position. Rambler flight reports 3 MiG-17s entering from the northeast. The trap has worked. Every available MiG is airborne and committed. Olds, this is Forward Lead. We are defensive. Request support. Forward Lead's voice is tight, stressed. The MiGs have altitude advantage and are pressing the attack. Olds brakes toward Ford's position. Full afterburner. Airspeed, 610 knots. Fuel consumption spikes to over 1,000 pounds per minute. He can sustain this for 3 minutes before he must throttle back. 3:05 p.m. Olds enters the furball. Multiple aircraft maneuvering in a confined airspace. Altitude ranges from 12,000 to 18,000 feet. Cloud deck complicates visibility. Contrails from high-speed turns mark the sky. Olds counts 6 Phantoms and at least 5 MiGs in a 3-mile radius. He spots a MiG-21 in a climbing left turn, trying to gain separation from a pursuing F-4C. The Phantom is overshooting. Too much closure speed. Olds cuts across the circle, predicting where the MiG will be in 5 seconds. He's at 14,500 feet, MiG at 16,000 feet. Distance, 9,000 feet. Clifton locks the radar. Good luck, high aspect, 11,000 feet. Olds fires another AIM-7 Sparrow. The missile accelerates, but the MiG pilot sees the launch and self-destructs into the clouds. Miss. 3:07 p.m. Fuel state, 5,200 pounds. Olds throttles back to conserve fuel. He's breathing hard now, each turn pulling 4 to 6 Gs. His flight suit feels heavy, soaked with sweat despite the freezing altitude. Below him, Ford 3 scores a kill. An AIM-9 Sidewinder catches a MiG-21 in a right turn, detonating at the wing root. The MiG disintegrates. Debris tumbles through the clouds. Ford 3 calls it in. Splash 1 MiG-21, Ford 3. Third kill for the operation. Time, 3:07 p.m.
3:09 p.m. Olds spots another MiG-21 egressing northwest, running for home, low altitude, 8,000 feet, full afterburner. The pilot has realized this is not a bomber strike. He's leaving. Olds rolls inverted and pulls, diving after the MiG. Airspeed, 580 knots, and increasing. G-load, -2, then +5 as he rolls upright. Altitude, 10,000 feet. Distance to MiG, 7,000 feet, decreasing. The MiG pilot sees him and brakes hard left, then right. A defensive weave, but he's low on fuel. His turns are shallow. Olds closes to 4,000 feet. Clifton can't get a radar lock. Too low. Too much ground clutter. Olds switches to AIM-9 Sidewinder. He listens for the tone. Nothing. The MiG's afterburner is partially obscured by the fuselage angle. Insufficient heat signature. Distance, 3,000 feet. The MiG pilot makes his second mistake. He pulls up sharply, trying to gain altitude for an Immelman reversal. This exposes his tailpipe fully to Olds' Sidewinder. The tone locks. A high-pitched growl in Olds' headset. He fires the Sidewinder. Tracks perfectly. Time of flight, 1.8 seconds. Impact at the engine exhaust. The MiG's tail section separates. The pilot ejects. White parachute blossoms at 6,000 feet. Fourth kill for the operation. Olds' second personal kill. Time, 3:10 p.m. 3:11 p.m. Olds pulls off and climbs back to 12,000 feet. Fuel state, 4,200 pounds. He has approximately 8 minutes before he must turn for the tanker. The sky is emptying. MiGs are disengaging, scattering toward their bases. The North Vietnamese ground controllers are screaming on the radio, ordering their pilots to break off and return immediately. Forward Flight reports a fifth kill. Forward 4, Captain Everett Raspberry Jr. fires an AIM-7 Sparrow at a MiG-21 climbing through the clouds. The missile detonates just behind the cockpit. The MiG explodes. No ejection. Fifth kill. Time, 3:12 p.m. 3:14 p.m. Olds reformats his flight. All 4 F-4Cs are intact. No battle damage. Fuel states range from 3,800 to 4,500 pounds. He orders the flight to egress west toward the tanker track over Laos. As he turns, he scans the sky one last time. Empty. The entire engagement lasted 14 minutes. In that time, 7 MiG-21s were destroyed. 0 American losses. The North Vietnamese Air Force just lost 1/4 of its MiG-21 force in a single engagement.
3:17 p.m. Olds' flight crosses back into Laotian airspace. The radio is chaotic. Every flight is reporting kills, damage assessments, fuel states. The EC-121 controller attempts to organize the egress, directing flights to specific tanker tracks. Olds levels at 20,000 feet, throttles at 85%, airspeed 420 knots, fuel 3,400 pounds. He'll reach the tanker with 2,000 pounds remaining, comfortable margin. Behind him, the other flights are still engaged. Rambler Flight reports shooting down a MiG-17 with an AIM-9. Lincoln Flight damages another MiG-21 but cannot confirm a kill. By the time the last American flight exits North Vietnamese airspace, the score is final. 7 MiG-21s confirmed destroyed. 2 MiG-17s damaged. No American losses. 3:32 p.m. Olds' flight rendezvoused with a KC-135 tanker over northern Laos. Refueling takes 8 minutes per aircraft. Olds takes 12,000 pounds of fuel. As he disconnects from the tanker's boom, he allows himself a moment of satisfaction. The operation worked exactly as planned.
Olds' flight returned to Ubon at 4:47 p.m. Total mission time, 2 hours, 47 minutes. All 4 aircraft landed without incident. Ground crews swarmed the Phantoms, inspecting for damage. Olds' F-4C, tail number 640829, showed no battle damage. All missile pylons were empty. 4 AIM-7 Sparrows expended. 2 hits, 2 misses. 4 AIM-9 Sidewinders expended. 1 hit, 3 misses or lost block. Fuel remaining at landing, 1,800 pounds. Across the flight line, the other returning aircraft told similar stories. Forward Flight's 3rd aircraft, flown by Captain John Stone, had light damage from debris when his Sidewinder detonated a MiG at close range. Small punctures in the vertical stabilizer, non-critical. All aircraft were flyable for the next mission. The weapon's performance data was sobering. Of 24 AIM-7 Sparrows fired during Operation Bolo, 7 achieved hits.
Success rate, 29%. Of 16 AIM-9 Sidewinders fired, 5 achieved hits. Success rate, 31%. These figures were actually above average for Vietnam-era missile performance, but they underscored a persistent problem. American missiles were unreliable. Pilots were going into combat with weapons that failed more often than they succeeded. Maintenance crews downloaded gun camera footage from each aircraft. The film would be analyzed frame by frame to confirm kills and study MiG tactics. The debriefing lasted 3 hours. Each pilot described his engagement in sequence. Olds emphasized one point repeatedly. The MiG pilots reacted predictably. They flew standardized intercept profiles, climbing steeply through the weather and committing to the attack before visually confirming their targets. This rigidity cost them.
Operation Bolo was immediately classified at the highest levels. Pilots were ordered not to discuss the mission outside official channels. The reason was tactical, not political. If the North Vietnamese understood how they had been deceived, they would adapt their intercept procedures. Future deception operations would fail. Official press releases confirmed that an air battle had occurred on January 2, but details were vague. 7 MiG-21s destroyed, no American losses. The method was described only as aggressive fighter tactics. The deception element was not mentioned. Olds received the Air Force Cross, the service's second highest decoration, for his actions during Operation Bolo. The citation praised his leadership and tactical skill, but omitted specific details about the ruse. Other participating pilots received distinguished flying crosses and air medals. The awards were presented quietly, without public ceremony. The North Vietnamese response was swift. For the next 3 weeks, MiG-21s did not fly. The VPAF grounded its interceptor force while commanders analyzed what went wrong. When flights resumed in late January, MiG-21 pilots operated under new restrictions. They were forbidden from engaging formations identified as F-105s unless ground controllers confirmed bomb releases. The tactic worked once. It would not work again. Internally, the U.S. Air Force studied Operation Bolo intensively. The success validated pre-planned deception and coordinated multi-flight operations, but it also exposed weaknesses. Missile reliability remained poor. The F-4C's lack of an internal gun forced pilots to rely on temperamental electronics. And the operation succeeded in part because the weather cooperated. On a clear day, MiG pilots would have visually identified the Phantoms earlier and disengaged. Olds flew 152 combat missions over North Vietnam. He was credited with 4 MiG kills, making him a Vietnam War ace by the traditional definition, though the Air Force did not officially recognize the term ace during Vietnam. He left Southeast Asia in September 1967 and retired from the Air Force in 1973 as a brigadier general. The full details of Operation Bolo's deception were declassified in 1985. Tactical analysis documents, mission plans, and radio transcripts became available to researchers. Vietnamese archives, accessed after normalization of relations in the 1990s, confirmed American kill claims. North Vietnamese records listed 7 MiG-21s lost on January 2, 1967, matching U.S. reports exactly. Vietnamese pilots who survived the engagement were interviewed in the 2000s. Nguyen Van Cook, North Vietnam's leading ace with 9 confirmed kills, described Operation Bolo as the most professionally executed trap of the war. He noted that VPAF commanders underestimated American tactical flexibility. The assumption that F-4s would only escort bombers, not impersonate them, proved fatal. Robin Olds became a legend within the fighter community. After retirement, he was a vocal advocate for realistic combat training. He criticized peacetime Air Force culture for prioritizing appearance over combat readiness. His tactical lessons from Operation Bolo were incorporated into the curriculum at the U.S. Air Force Weapons School and the Navy's Fighter Weapons School, Top Gun. Both institutions emphasized deception, energy management, and coordinated multi-aircraft tactics, principles Olds demonstrated over North Vietnam. Olds died June 14, 2007, at age 84. His funeral at the Air Force Academy was attended by over 1,000 people, including fighter pilots from 3 generations.
His ashes were scattered over the Rocky Mountains. The 8th Fighter Wing, which he commanded during Operation Bolo, still carries the nickname Wolfpack and honors his legacy. The F-4C Phantom that Olds flew on January 2, 1967, tail number 640829, was retired in 1979. It is currently on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. A placard describes Operation Bolo and Olds' role. Visitors can see the empty missile pylons and imagine the sky over Hanoi in 1967.
Operation Bolo is studied at military staff colleges worldwide as a textbook example of tactical deception. 4 key lessons emerged. 1. Deception succeeds when it exploits enemy doctrine. The North Vietnamese Air Force operated under rigid procedures dictated by Soviet training manuals. MiG-21 pilots were trained to intercept bombers, not engage fighters. Olds exploited this doctrinal inflexibility by presenting a bomber profile until the MiGs were committed and vulnerable. 2. Multi-aircraft coordination multiplies combat effectiveness. 7 flights of F-4Cs, totaling 56 aircraft, operated in a compressed airspace without fratricide. This required precise timing, clear radio discipline, and rehearsed tactics. The result was overwhelming local superiority. The MiGs faced not individual dogfights, but a coordinated kill zone. 3. Weather can be a tactical asset if integrated into planning. The cloud deck forced MiGs to climb blind and emerge at a predictable altitude. Olds positioned his flights at the exact altitude where MiGs would break through the clouds, giving the Phantoms first look, first shot advantage. 4. Technology is only as effective as the training behind it. Despite unreliable missiles, American pilots achieved a 7-0 kill ratio because they used their weapons at optimal parameters. They fired within effective range, maintained radar locks, and didn't waste shots on low-probability targets. North Vietnamese pilots, though brave, lacked equivalent training and made tactical errors that skilled opponents exploited. These lessons remain relevant. Modern air forces studying Operation Bolo focus on its integration of intelligence, deception, and coordinated execution. The operation demonstrated that tactical creativity could overcome technological parity and political restrictions.
Robin Olds was interviewed in 2005 about Operation Bolo. His assessment was characteristically blunt. We didn't do anything extraordinary. We planned carefully, we trained our people, and we executed the mission as briefed. The MiGs came up expecting one thing and got another. That's war. You create the conditions that favor your strengths and exploit the enemy's weaknesses. The remarkable thing wasn't that we won, it's that we had to fight with one hand tied behind our backs because of political restrictions. Imagine what we could have accomplished if we'd been allowed to fight properly from the start. Heroism in combat is rarely about fearlessness. It's about preparation, discipline, and the ability to execute under pressure. Olds and the pilots of Operation Bolo demonstrated all three. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe to Silent Heroes Chronicles for more detailed examinations of lesser-known military operations. Leave a comment. What tactical lesson from Operation Bolo do you think is most relevant to modern air combat? Let's discuss.